Hi everyone, you all know me, I'm Kat, and I am going to tell you a story called The Monkey's Paw by William Whymark Jacobs, and he wrote this story in 1902. He's a British author. Most of his stories, he wrote short stories, most of them were humorous, but this he turned from humor into horror, so this is his macabre short story, and ironically, that shift this was his most famous short story, so that shift boded very well for him. So we will start with The Monkey's Paw. As many of these stories begin, it was a dark and stormy night, cold and gray in an isolated villa owned by the White family. Mr. and Mrs. White and their son Herbert. They were waiting around. Herbert and Mr. White are playing chess, bantering colloquially amongst each other, clearly a very familiar family, as they're waiting for their special guest. Mr. White is just wondering why it's so isolated, why they're in the middle of nowhere. They never see anybody, nobody ever comes to see them. So they're really building up this special visitor. And then finally they hear the gate open, and Sergeant Major Marshall comes up, knocks on the door, and they let him in. This is a world traveler. He's gone to exotic countries. He's had courageous adventures. He's an army man, and so they're so excited to have this new visitor in their home. They have dinner, they have drinks, they're sitting, he's opening up all about his travels to India. And then Mrs. White says, "Didn't you say something about a monkey's paw?" Now, the sergeant clearly gets a little uncomfortable. He says, no, it was nothing, it was nothing. She says, no, I heard something about this monkey's paw. What's going on with the monkey's paw? You would think for a man pretty uncomfortable with his paw, he wouldn't carry it around with him, but he pulls it out of his pocket. He says, it's nothing. It's nothing. You don't want to know about the paw. They say, no, tell us. And he said, well, okay, And all of a sudden the monkey's paw is there and captures the room's attention. And he says, an old fakir from India, he put a curse on it, a spell. Now it'll grant you 3 wishes. But he did this to teach people not to mess with fate, and that by messing with fate, extreme sadness will come. But 3 men will get 3 wishes each from this paw. Mrs. White's like, that's amazing, that's great, did you do it? And he said, yes. What was it? No, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. What about, the first man? Well, all I know is that his 3rd wish was death. Oh, so there's a lot of tension building around the paw. Then the sergeant throws it in the fire. They're like, what are you doing? You're crazy. It still has wishes on it. So they reach in and they pull it out. And he says, well, beware. You can do with it as you wish. But I can't be responsible for the consequences. So he leaves. And they're like, this is so silly. I mean, what could it be? Well, what if we're reasonable with our wishes? Nothing bad's going to happen to us. Let's be reasonable. And the son says, Herbert says, well, why don't you wish to have the money that would pay off the house? He says, okay, 200 pounds. Not a big deal. Okay, 200 pounds. So he picks up the paw. We wish for 200 pounds. And he feels this little movement in his hand. And everybody waits. He says, it moved. And they wait, thinking 200 pounds is going to drop from the sky. And nothing happens. Ugh, we're so silly. This is a tale. We're silly. Nothing's going to happen. So they go to bed laughing at their ridiculousness. Oh gosh, I can't believe we believed in magic. We believed this guy's stories from the great afar. So they go to bed and they wake up. Herbert goes to work. They're sitting there going, oh, it was nice to see our friend, but I still can't believe we believed in that. So they're waiting all day, and Mrs. White kind of thinks like maybe when the postman comes, there'll be a check. She's still believing in this a little bit. But then in the afternoon, all of a sudden, a mysterious man comes up. And he's hesitating. Keeps going towards the door, and then he hesitates. And he backs away, and he looks really anxious. And what's going on? So they open the door, and the man says, I'm so sorry to tell you this. Something's happened to your son at work. And they say, wait, what? Is he okay? Is Herbert okay? And they said, he was caught in the machinery at work, and he was mangled. He's not in any pain anymore. The Whites, obviously are distraught. They don't even think this is their only son. It's tragic. And then the man says, well, the company really wants to do right by you. So here's compensation for 200 pounds. And Mrs. White says, did you say 200 pounds? And they said, yes, we hope this eases some of the pain. So they realized that, yes, this did have an effect, and it was catastrophic, and it brought them sadness and not the joy that they expected it to. They bury their son. They think, we don't know what to do with our lives. So they sit and they wait for some solace, and days go by, weeks, and they just sit quietly. And then one day Mrs. White says, Mr. White, where's the paw? We still have the monkey's paw. We have 2 more wishes. We can bring him back. And Mr. White says, no. This is done enough already. This is done enough. And she says, please, it's our son, it's our boy. And he says, this is awful, this is silly, it's foolish, and it's cursed. And so they're fighting, and she says, go find it. And they find it, and he's conflicted. He knows this is what his wife wants. This is what would bring her so much joy. And he sits there and he thinks about his son in that coffin, unrecognizable, mangled, to the point beyond even a parent's recognition. Wife pleads, and he raises the hand, and he says, we wish for our son back. And they wait. And they wait. And all they hear the creaking of the house, little mice scurrying, and Mr. White is deathly afraid of what is going to come through that door. And Mrs. White rushes, but she's a small woman and cannot get the latch. Another knock, and then a louder knock, and a louder knock. And Mr. White realizes their mistake, realizes that what is coming through that door is not their son, but this undead thing. And so he scrambles to find the monkey paw before she can get that door open, and he grabs the paw, and he says, I wish for our son to rest in peace. And finally, Mrs. White opens the door, and there's no one there. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you guys so much.